Her wounds made walking impossible, until a human risked everything to heal her. The fractured arrival. The first thing Dr. Finn Koros noticed wasn't the explosion that shook his research station. It was the silence that followed. On Cathara, silence meant trouble. The native crystal formations hummed constantly, their quantum resonance creating a background symphony that had become his companion during 3 years of self-imposed exile. When that music stopped, something was very wrong. Finn pushed back from his workbench, scattering circuit boards and neural interface components across the metal surface. Through the reinforced viewport of his laboratory, purple lightning crackled across the twilight sky. But this wasn't Kithra's usual atmospheric display. The strikes moved with purpose, arcing downward in deliberate patterns that made his skin crawl. The impact came 30 seconds later. The station lurched sideways, throwing Finn against the wall as emergency lights bathed everything in hellish red. Warning klaxons screamed through the corridors, their pitch rising and falling like the cries of dying animals. Through the chaos, his training kicked in. 12 years as a combat medic in the Terran Defense Corps hadn't been erased by 3 years of hermit life. He grabbed his emergency kit and rushed toward the main airlock, muscle memory guiding him through corridors he could navigate blindfolded. The crash site was obvious. A massive breach in the station's outer hull, twisted metal peeled back like flower petals to reveal the alien landscape beyond. That's when he saw her. She lay crumpled in the center of the impact crater, her body wreathed in shifting aurora light that pulsed in rhythm with her labored breathing. Nixari. Finn's blood chilled as he recognized the species. Humanoid in basic structure but fundamentally alien in every way that mattered. Her skin held a translucent quality, revealing the network of quantum channels beneath that carried energy instead of blood. Those channels now flickered erratically, sparking with unstable light that threatened to burn out entirely. Son of a bitch, Finn muttered, dropping his kit beside her. In all his years of service, he'd never treated a Nixari. Most humans had never even seen one. They were deep space dwellers, their entire civilization built around quantum manipulation technologies that human science barely understood. The woman stirred as he knelt beside her, her eyes opening to reveal irises that swirled with trapped starlight. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that resonated in his bones. "Please," she whispered, the word emerging in perfectly accented Terran standard despite her obvious distress. "The temporal weapons. They fractured my quantum matrix. I need—" Her back arched as spasms racked her frame, the light beneath her skin flaring dangerously bright. "Easy," Finn said, his medic instincts overriding his fear. "I'm going to scan you, try to understand what's wrong." She grabbed his wrist with surprising strength, her touch sending electric jolts through his nervous system. "No scans. The quantum resonance will destabilize further. You must use direct neural interface." Finn stared at her. "That's impossible. Human neurology isn't compatible with Nixari quantum biology. The feedback would kill us both." Her grip tightened, desperation bleeding through her alien composure. "You're wrong. Your species, some of you carry dormant quantum sensitivity. I can sense it in you. A resonance pattern that matches my own. It's why I came here, why my ship's navigation system locked onto this location as I was dying." The implications hit him like a physical blow. She wasn't here by accident. Something, in her quantum-damaged state, had been drawn to him specifically, as if he were some kind of living beacon. The idea should have been terrifying, but instead, he felt a strange sense of recognition, as if he'd been waiting his entire life for this moment. "What's your name?" he asked, buying time while his mind raced through treatment options. "Zara, Keth, Quantum Navigator of the Deep Fleet." Her voice was weakening, the light beneath her skin growing more erratic. "And you are Dr. Finn Koros, former neural specialist with the 47th Medical Corps. Your research into bioquantum interfaces is why the universe brought us together." Finn's breath caught. His classified research, buried in military databases that should have been impossible for a Nexari to access. "How do you—" "Dying minds speak to the quantum foam," Zara interrupted, her words becoming slurred as her condition worsened. "I've seen fragments of your work, Your theories about consciousness as a quantum phenomenon. You were closer to the truth than your species realizes. Another spasm hit her, more violent than the last. The quantum channels beneath her skin began to fade, their light dimming like dying stars. Finn recognized the signs of system failure. He had perhaps minutes before her exotic biology collapsed entirely. The neural interface, he said grimly. What exactly are you asking me to do? Zara's eyes focused on his with desperate intensity. Form a quantum bridge between our nervous systems. Share your neural stability to stabilize my matrix. The process is intimate. Our consciousness will overlap, merge temporarily. You'll experience my memories, my thoughts, and I yours. And if it goes wrong, then we die together, but at least we'll have tried. She managed a weak smile that was heartbreakingly human despite her alien features. I've seen your memories, in the quantum echoes, Finn Koros. You've saved hundreds of lives, lost yourself in the process when you couldn't save the ones that mattered most. This is your chance to save one more. The words hit too close to home. Images flashed through. His mind, burning hospitals, screaming soldiers, the faces of those he'd failed to pull back from death's edge. He'd come to Cathara to escape those memories, but perhaps they'd followed him here for a reason. The equipment I'd need is in your laboratory, Zara finished. The neural interface crown you've been developing. It was meant for human test subjects, but the quantum resonance modifications will work for this purpose. Finn stared at her, realization dawning. You've been watching me. Through the quantum foam, you've been observing my work. The universe has been preparing us for this moment, she said simply. The question is whether you're brave enough to trust it. Without another word, Finn scooped Zara into his arms, surprised by how light she felt despite her obvious physical density. Her skin burned against his like contained lightning, and with each step toward his laboratory, he could feel her quantum matrix resonating with something deep in his own nervous system. The neural interface crown waited on his workbench like a metallic flower, its quantum sensors designed to map and interact with human consciousness. He'd never tested it on a living subject. The risks were too great, the technology too experimental. Now he was about to stake 2 lives on its untested capabilities. Place it on my head first, Zara instructed as he lowered her onto the examination table. Let it calibrate to my quantum signature, then you can establish the bridge. Finn's hands shook slightly as he positioned the crown's delicate sensors against her temples. The device activated immediately, its displays flooding with data patterns, unlike anything he'd ever seen. Zara's consciousness was vast, complex, a symphony of quantum interactions that made human neural activity look primitive by comparison. Now you, she said, her voice already taking on an ethereal quality as the interface synchronized with her thoughts. Finn took a deep breath and placed the secondary neural crown on his own head. The moment the connection established, the world exploded into fractured light and sensation. He felt Zara's pain as if it were his own, experienced the slow collapse of her quantum matrix like ice breaking beneath his feet. But beneath the crisis, something else emerged, a harmony between their neural patterns that shouldn't have been possible. Their thoughts began to merge and flow together, 2 consciousness becoming something greater than the sum of their parts. Through Zara's memories, he saw the deep space civilization of the Nexari, their cities built from living quantum crystal that sang with the voices of stars. He experienced her desperate flight from temporal weapons that had shattered reality itself, her ship's navigation system guiding her across impossible distances to find the one being who might save her. In return, she saw his memories, the dedication that had driven him to master xenobiology, the guilt that had sent him into exile, the loneliness that had become his constant companion. She felt his wonder at her alien nature, his growing determination to save her no matter the cost. Together, their merged consciousness began to work. Finn's stable neural patterns provided an anchor for Zara's chaotic quantum matrix, while her exotic biology opened pathways in his mind he'd never known existed. The healing process was unlike anything either had experienced, part medical procedure, part spiritual communion. As Zara's quantum channels began to stabilize, their mental bond deepened. They were no longer two separate beings connected by technology, but something new, a hybrid consciousness that transcended the boundaries of their individual species. The process reached completion as Cathara's twin moons rose over the research station, their combined light streaming through the laboratory windows. Zara's quantum matrix had stabilized, its chaotic flickering replaced by steady, healthy patterns. But more than that, she had changed, and so had Finn. They disconnected the neural interface crowns, but the bond between them remained, a quantum entanglement that linked their consciousness across space and time. When Zara sat up on the examination table, her movements fluid and strong, Finn could feel her relief as if it were his own. "How do you feel?" he asked, though he already knew the answer through their shared connection. "Healed," she said, then smiled, "and no longer alone." Finn nodded, understanding perfectly. For the first time in 3 years, neither was he. But as they embraced, celebrating their successful joining, neither noticed the distant energy signatures approaching Cathara's atmosphere, ships that had been tracking Zara's quantum trail across the galaxy and had finally found their prey. The resonance bond Finn woke to the sensation of falling stars. The dream, if it could be called that, pulled him from sleep with violent clarity. He experienced Zara's memories as if they were his own. The moment her deep space reconnaissance ship had detected the temporal weapon deployment, the desperate evasive maneuvers that had failed to prevent the quantum cascade, the sickening sensation of her very essence being torn apart at the molecular level. But these weren't just memories. Through their quantum bond, he was experiencing her nightmares in real time, 2 rooms away where she slept in his quarters. Finn sat up, pressing his palms against his temples as the shared trauma faded. 3 days had passed since their neural interface procedure, and the bond between them had only grown stronger. He could sense her emotional states, catch fragments of her thoughts, even feel phantom echoes of her alien physiology in his own body. The implications were staggering. They had created something unprecedented, a stable psychic link between 2 entirely different species. But with that connection came complications neither had anticipated. "Finn." Zara's voice carried through their bond rather than the air, a whisper in his mind that arrived with the subtle warmth of her presence. "You felt it too." He found her in the observation deck, silhouetted against the purple-tinted landscape of Cathara. She wore one of his old research uniforms, the fabric hanging loose on her lean frame. Her quantum channels still glowed softly beneath her translucent skin, but the chaotic flickering had been replaced by steady, mesmerizing patterns. "The temporal weapon," Finn said, joining her at the viewport. "I saw what happened to your ship." Zara nodded, her expression troubled. "The bond is deeper than I expected. We're not just sharing surface thoughts, our consciousness are integrating. At a fundamental level, I can feel your memories of the medical corps, your guilt over the patients you couldn't save. And I can sense your fear," Finn replied. "You weren't just running from the weapon's effects. You were running from something else." Before Zara could respond, the station's proximity alarms began to wail. Finn rushed to the communication console, his blood chilling as he read the sensor displays. 6 ships had dropped out of hyperspace in Cathara's upper atmosphere, their energy signatures marking them as Nexari military vessels. "They found us," Zara whispered, her face pale. "I hoped the quantum trail would be too degraded to follow, but our bond, it's created a beacon they can track." Finn's fingers flew over the controls, activating the station's defensive protocols. "Who are they? What do they want with you?" "Commander Vex Thorn," Zara said, her voice bitter. "My former commanding officer. I was part of a deep reconnaissance mission to investigate the temporal weapons before they could be deployed against civilian populations. What I discovered..." She paused, her quantum channels flickering with agitation. "The weapons weren't built by our enemies. They were created by a faction within the Nexari government itself." The revelation hit Finn like a physical blow. "You're not just injured, you're a fugitive. I tried to warn the civilian populations, to prevent the weapon tests that would have killed millions. Thorn branded me a traitor and sent hunters after me. The temporal weapon exposure wasn't an accident, it was an execution attempt. Through their bond, Finn felt the weight of her guilt and determination. She had risked everything to save lives, just as he had done during his years as a combat medic. The parallel wasn't lost on either of them. Incoming transmission, the station's AI announced. Nexari military frequency. Finn hesitated, then activated the channel. A holographic image materialized in the center of the room. A tall Nexari, male whose quantum channels pulsed with authoritative red light. His features were sharp and predatory, his eyes holding the cold calculation of a career soldier. Dr. Koros, Commander Thorn said, his voice carrying the same harmonic resonance as Zara's, but with an underlying threat. I am Commander Vex, Thorn of the Nexari Deep Fleet. You are harboring a fugitive from justice. Surrender Zara Keth immediately and you will not be harmed. She's under my medical protection, Finn replied, surprised by the steadiness of his own voice. Her quantum matrix was critically damaged. Moving her now could be fatal. Thorn's expression didn't change. Our medical scanners indicate her condition has stabilized. More than that, they show evidence of quantum entanglement with a human consciousness. Such hybridization is considered a violation of the Purity Accords. Finn felt Zara's shock through their bond. The Purity Accords, laws that forbade genetic or consciousness mixing between species, were apparently more than just Nexari xenophobia. They were designed to prevent exactly what he and Zara had accomplished. You have 10 minutes to comply, Thorn continued. After that, we will board your station and take her by force. The transmission ended, leaving them in tense silence. Through their bond, Finn could feel Zara's resignation, her willingness to surrender to protect him. But he also felt something else, a fierce protectiveness that surprised him with its intensity. We're not giving up, he said firmly. There has to be another way. Zara turned to him, her eyes wide with a mixture of hope and fear. Finn, you don't understand. Thorn has a full military squad. They'll kill you without hesitation. Then we'd better make sure they don't catch us. Finn was already moving, his combat medic training taking over. This station has an emergency evacuation. It's designed for long-range travel, equipped with quantum stealth capabilities. You're talking about running, Zara said. Abandoning your research, your life here. Finn paused, looking around the laboratory that had been his sanctuary for 3 years. The neural interface equipment, the quantum resonance studies, the careful isolation he'd built around his wounded heart. All of it suddenly seemed less important than the woman standing before him. My life here was just existence, he said. What we have, this bond, this connection, it's the first time I've felt truly alive since I left the medical corps. Through their quantum link, he felt Zara's emotions surge, gratitude, affection, and something deeper that neither of them was ready to name. But there was no time for exploration. The station shuddered as Thorn's ships began their approach. They moved quickly, Finn gathering essential equipment while Zara used her quantum abilities to mask their life signs from the ship's sensors. The evacuation pod was cramped but functional, its quantum drive capable of short-range jumps that would make them difficult to track. As they prepared for launch, Finn found himself studying Zara's face in the pod's dim lighting. The quantum channels beneath her skin pulsed in rhythm with his own heartbeat, a visual reminder of how deeply they had become connected. There's something else, Zara said quietly. Something I haven't told you about our bond. What? It's not just psychological. The quantum entanglement is changing us at a cellular level. Your neural patterns are becoming more compatible with quantum manipulation, while my biology is adapting to interface with human consciousness. Finn stared at her. You're saying we're evolving? Becoming something new? A hybrid species, Zara confirmed. The first of our kind. It's why the Purity Accords exist, to prevent the emergence of beings who could bridge the gap between human and Nexari civilizations. The implications were staggering. They weren't just two individuals who had formed a healing bond. They were the first representatives of a new form of consciousness that could potentially unite two species that had never truly understood each other. The pod launched just as Thorne's soldiers breached the station's airlock. Through the rear viewport, Finn watched his research facility disappear into Kithara's purple atmosphere, taking with it the last vestiges of his old life. "Where do we go?" he asked as the pod's quantum drive engaged. "The Nexari have colonies. In the Outer Rim," Zara said. "Places where political dissidents and free thinkers gather. We could find allies there, people who would understand what we've become." But even as she spoke, Finn could sense her uncertainty through their bond. They were no longer fully human or Nexari. They were something entirely new, refugees from two worlds with nowhere to call home. As the pod jumped into quantum space, its drive singing with harmonics that resonated in both their consciousness, Finn realized that their journey was just beginning. They had saved each other, but in doing so, they had created something that would challenge the fundamental assumptions of both their species. Through their bond, he felt Zara's hand slip into his, her quantum-enhanced touch sending ripples of warmth through his nervous system. Whatever they had become, whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The stars wheeled around them as the pod emerged from quantum space near the edge of the galaxy, where ancient ruins of a long-dead civilization offered temporary sanctuary. As they landed on the surface of a forgotten world, Finn and Zara stepped, out hand in hand, the first of a new kind of being that carried the hopes and fears of two species in their quantum-entangled souls. Behind them, the tracking signals of Thorne's ships faded into the cosmic background radiation. Ahead lay uncertainty, but also possibility. The chance to prove that consciousness could transcend the boundaries of flesh and species, creating connections that would reshape the galaxy itself. Their healing had become something greater than either could have imagined. It had become evolution,